Discover how a cleaner's incredible ACT transformed the lives of a millionaire's blind children. Clara wiped the sweat off her brow and stepped back to admire her work. The gleaming floors of the Langston mansion sparkled like a treasure. Her mind drifted, filled with dreams much larger than her daily grind of scrubbing and dusting. As a cleaner, she was invisible in a world of opulence. But behind those massive gates, she felt a tug, and unquenchable hope stirred within her. Her heart swelled with purpose, especially for her two blind children, David and Lily. They were her world, and she wanted to build a bridge for them to experience everything life had to offer. Ethan and Bella Langston were blind, too. Clara often caught their faint laughter echoing down the grand halls of their mansion. Yet the silence that followed felt heavy with loneliness. As a single mother struggling to keep her family afloat in the affluent neighborhood of Hillcrest, she couldn't help but wonder if their lives could intertwine. Clara envisioned playdates, laughter shared between their children. They were all so much alike, yet their worlds felt galaxies apart. "I can teach them," she whispered to herself one day, determination surging through her veins. With each visit to the Langston home, Clara started breaking barriers. She guided Ethan and Bella around their spacious yard, her patience molding their perception of space, their giggles illuminating the void around them. "Your world is not just what you see, it's what you feel," she told them, as they touched the bark of a tree and let the grass tickle their fingers. But dreams often come at a price. Tensions in the community began to bubble, with echoes of suspicion and discontent. A shadow fell over her vibrant aspirations when the Langstons' beloved dog, Max, went missing. Whispers floated through the neighborhood like shadows creeping under doors. Suddenly, Clara found herself at ground zero of accusations flying like arrows. Could a family in need have taken the dog? Did struggling neighbors seek to exploit the wealth of the Langstons? The thought twisted her stomach. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The weight of the community's judgment bore down on Clara like a heavy fog, and her heart ached for her children. David and Lily sensed the change in the air, their innocent brows furrowing with confusion. "Mom, are we going to get in trouble?" David asked, his voice trembling. The pain of seeing their worries tightened her chest. Protecting them felt like a Herculean task. But as Clara stood at the precipice of chaos, she felt a flicker, a moment that burned brighter than her fears. A confrontation with the Langstons was looming, a chance to both defend her integrity and fight for the friendships that had sprung from shared challenges. What she had been building for them was fragile, but it shimmered with the potential for something beautiful. Could the chasm between wealth and need be filled with understanding instead of judgment? As the tension crackled in the air, Clara knew that her next steps would determine not just their fate, but the very fabric that tied their lives together. Would they choose to see beyond their differences, or would the community's prejudices drown everything she had hoped for? Clara's heart raced. This was just the beginning of something profound, but would it end as she envisioned? The morning sun spilled through the mansion's large windows, bathing the rooms in a soft glow. Clara stood at the door of the Langston estate, her heart pounding. She took a deep breath, steadying herself for the conversation ahead. Today would be different. Today, she would speak her truth. As she entered, she noticed the tension in the air. Ethan and Bella were seated on a plush sofa, their hands resting on their laps, their faces betraying their uncertainty. Mrs. Langston hovered nearby, her gaze distant. Clara's appearance seemed to shake her from whatever reverie she was caught in, and the tension in the space felt like static electricity. "Clara," Mrs. Langston began, her voice straining to mask vulnerability. "There are rumors in the neighborhood." Each word was heavy, laden with anxiety about the very people they had welcomed into their world. "I know, ma'am," Clara replied, her voice steady yet soft. "And I'm here to explain." Ethan shifted on the sofa, leaning closer. "Mom, is Clara in trouble?" The innocence in his question cut through the discomfort like a knife. Clara knelt down, meeting Ethan's gaze. No, sweetie. I'm not in trouble. I promise. She could feel the warmth of his tiny hands grasping hers. A comfort amidst the turmoil. Rumors can be cruel, Clara continued, addressing Mrs. Langston directly. But they don't define who I am or how I care for my children and yours. She took a deep breath, summoning all of her courage. I love your children. I want them to experience the world fully, just like my kids. This isn't just about cleaning, it's about friendship. Silence enveloped the room, heavy yet laden with possibility. Clara could see the flicker of understanding in Mrs. Langston's eyes. The tension hung like a thin thread, waiting for the slightest movement to snap. For weeks now, I've been guiding Ethan and Bella, Clara continued, her passion igniting the air. We've laughed, we've learned, and we've shared. I want that for all of us. Can't we rise above the whispers? As if on cue, David and Lily burst into the room. Their laughter filled the space, a lightness Clara thought might never return. David's hand sought Clara's, while Lily clumsily tugged at Ethan's sleeve, inviting play. Mom, we found a new game, Lily exclaimed, her energy igniting hope in Clara's chest. What game? Ethan asked, feigning seriousness but unable to suppress a smile. Let us play tag, David shouted, his excitement infectious. Clara chuckled, the heaviness lifting slightly. The children circling each other reminded her of fireflies darting in and out of shadows, illuminating their small world. Mrs. Langston's expression softened, and for a moment, Clara thought she caught a glimmer of realization all these children, together, could rewrite their stories. She felt emboldened. Perhaps you're right, Clara, Mrs. Langston finally said, her voice gaining strength. We've spent so long carrying the weight of our circumstances that we've forgotten the most important thing: community. A heartwarming silence enveloped them, held together by the shared laughter of the children. Yet, the specter of gossip lurked in the back of Clara's mind. A potential threat that still loomed over their fragile bond. Let us plan a gathering, Clara suggested, her gaze darting from Mrs. Langston to the children, fueled by hope. Invite the neighbors. Let us show them that bridges can be built. As excitement filled the room, Clara's heart swelled. Yet, in the back of her mind, a knot of anxiety twisted. What if the community's mistrust overshadowed their efforts? Could they truly change hearts in an environment that had grown cold with judgment? It was a step forward, but would their newfound connection withstand the scrutiny waiting just outside their doors? Clara felt the weight of that question, and as the laughter echoed around her, she knew this was just the tip of the iceberg. What would it take to unite them all? The days that followed buzzed with anticipation. Clara spent her evenings planning every detail of the gathering, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and fear. What if nobody came? What if the whispers only grew louder? The stakes felt impossibly high. Yet every time she stumbled into doubt, she could hear Bella, Ethan, David, and Lily's laughter echoing in her mind, a reminder of the bond they all shared. That on the morning of the gathering, Clara woke early, her determination igniting her spirit. She prepared food with care, making sure to include dishes that held meaning for both households. Chicken salad sandwiches, fruit skewers, and Clara's famous brownies, simple yet filled with love. Each ingredient was a testament to the bridges she hoped to build. As guests started to arrive, Clara's heart raced. The Langstons' neighbors trickled in, their expressions a blend of curiosity and skepticism. Clara could feel every gaze. With each hug exchanged and handshake shared, she reminded herself that she had nothing to fear. She was here to show them honesty, strength, and the essence of community. Is this for us? Mrs. Langston asked, her tone light but layered with apprehension as she surveyed the spread. Clara nodded, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. Everyone is welcome. Families are meant to break bread together. The noise of laughter and chatter gradually filled the Langston estate. Children darted through the garden, their playful shrieks intertwining with the adults' conversations, creating an intoxicating blend. Clara watched David swing Lily around, their friendship glowing with an innocence that could melt the hardest of hearts. Just as Clara felt the weight of tension dissipate, she caught sight of a familiar face approaching, a face she had not expected, yet recognized vividly. It was Margaret, her old friend from the neighborhood. Clara's heart dropped. The last thing she wanted was to rehash past misunderstandings in front of everyone. "Clara, it's so great to see you," Margaret called, though Clara could hear the underlying note of wariness. "Margaret," Clara took a deep breath, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm glad you could make it." "Your kids seem happy," Margaret noted, crossing her arms defensively. "They are," Clara replied, forcing a smile. "They've found friendship here, just like I hope we all can." Margaret's brow knitted tighter as she took in the scene. The event swirled with laughter, yet tension crackled in the air. Clara knew that if anyone could rain on her parade, it would be her. She took a moment to steady herself, the knot of anxiety returning. Suddenly, just as Clara felt she could breathe a little easier, a loud voice rang out. "Hey, what's going on here?" It was Mark, a notorious neighborhood gossip, appearing at the edge of the gathering, hands on hips, clearly unimpressed. Clara's heart sank. Disapproval radiated off of him, and she could sense the energy in the room shift. The children seemed to pause mid-laugh, dread hovering in the corners. She felt a rush of protectiveness wash over her friends and their families. This was not how it was supposed to go. "Mark," Clara called out, her voice steadier than she felt. "We're just enjoying some food and each other's company. We all deserve to feel connected." But the crowd was already restless, many exchanging anxious glances. "Will everyone really be included?" Mark shot back, eyebrows raised. "Or is this just a farce to hide whatever is happening in the background?" Clara's heart raced. In that moment, vulnerability washed over her like ice water. Would the rumors swallow their new beginning before it could even take flight? As eyes turned to her, she felt the weight of the room pressing in. Would she fold under the scrutiny? Or would she stand tall and face the storm? Determined, Clara took a deep breath, her fists clenching at her sides. "This isn't a show, Mark. We're just trying to create a community, one that doesn't judge by hearsay but builds on what is real." The silence that followed felt like a chasm stretching before her. Clara sensed everyone watching closely, hearts hanging in the balance. How would this confrontation shift the course of their gathering? Would it bring clarity and unity or further suspicion and division? In that split second, she realized it was not just about this gathering. It was about transforming their lives. But as uncertainty loomed over them, Clara couldn't shake the question. Was she strong enough to weather the storm, or were they all bound to fall apart? Clara held her breath, feeling the weight of every eye in the garden. The awkward silence seemed to stretch on forever as the laughter faded, replaced by the hum of uncertainty. She could feel the tension in the air like a thick fog, wrapping around her and squeezing tight. What had begun as a simple gathering now felt like a fragile thread, teetering on the edge of being pulled apart. Mark's gaze was piercing, and Clara's heart hammered in her chest. She searched the faces of the people around her, hoping for support, a nod, a smile to encourage her. David's wide eyes met hers, revealing confusion, but also a determination that ignited something within her. She would fight for this moment. "Who told you that this wouldn't be real? Who told you we couldn't put the past aside and come together?" Clara's voice rose slightly, inspired by the resolve that had brought everyone here today. "I believe we can change things." Margaret shifted on her feet, her defensiveness wavering for just a moment. Clara sensed that a flicker of empathy had sparked within her friend. Maybe there was still hope for their shared history. "People talk," Mark shot back, but he seemed slightly less certain now. The crowd murmured, voices mixing into a murmur of doubt, curiosity, even a touch of hope. Clara pressed on, her voice unwavering. "I'm not pretending that everything is perfect. But what I do know is that we need to move forward. We need to create a community that welcomes everyone, hearts wide open." There was a pause, a heartbeat of silence before a soft voice broke through. "She's right," a neighbor spoke, her words barely audible yet powerful enough to catch their attention. "We've all been too afraid to really get to know each other." Clara glanced around, picking up little signs of agreement, nodding heads, exchanging looks that said more than words. The atmosphere lightened, shifting from suspicion to something resembling trust. And then it happened. Laughter echoed back into the gathering, hesitant at first but growing stronger. "Clara, how do you make those brownies?" came a voice from the back, someone breaking the ice. The children, fueled by the new energy, dashed over to Clara. Can we have some? Yes. I'll show you. Clara beamed, the warmth flooding back. She stepped forward, forgetting the heavy cloud that had loomed just moments before. She handed out the first plate of food, and as little hands reached for the treats, a sense of normalcy returned. Mark watched, fists relaxing at his sides. For a fleeting moment, he looked uncertain, as if Clara's passion was starting to puncture his defenses. But as eyes met his in the crowd, it wasn't about him anymore. This gathering belonged to everyone. Let us sit together, Clara suggested, glancing at the long tables arranged under the trees. No more divisions. Just us. As people moved to gather around the tables, Clara felt a swell of gratitude bloom inside her. This could work. But she also braced herself, knowing that beneath the surface, questions remained. This gathering had opened doors, but would they truly walk through? Her heart raced with both hope and anxiety. Could they really break the chains of the past, or would old wounds resurface? Just then, a sudden shout broke through the laughter. Wait! Did anyone see the dog? Someone had lost track of a rambunctious puppy darting through the crowd. Clara couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it, relief flooding her as the atmosphere lightened once again. But in the back of her mind, a new worry nagged at her. She knew this was only the beginning. It had taken one moment of courage to gather them. What would it take to hold them together when the first real challenge appeared on the horizon? Clara held her breath, wondering what other truths would come to light. The real test was yet to come. And deep down she knew that staying together would take more than just a meal in the garden. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting golden strands through the leaves above. The laughter continued to ripple, a new life emerging from Clara's words. She felt lighter, as if the tension that had gripped the garden had finally begun to dissipate. But with every fleeting moment of joy, a flicker of doubt remained, a quiet reminder that the peace they had just forged was still fragile. As people settled in at the tables, Clara glanced around, noting familiar faces mixed with new ones. Long-lost friends began to reconnect over shared stories and memories, laughter bubbling among them. Clara felt the warmth of the moment, yet anticipated the inevitable shadows that could creep back in when tempers flared. Mark leaned against a tree, a frown replacing the uncertainty from earlier. Clara couldn't ignore the way the tension returned to his shoulders. He was struggling with something deeper, and she couldn't help but wonder if his past weighed heavier than any of them understood. Want to help me with the lemonade? Clara offered, moving toward him. Maybe some separation from the crowd would give him the chance to share whatever was bothering him. Mark glanced up, surprised. Sure, I guess. He followed her toward the makeshift kitchen area where pitchers awaited their contents. The sharp scent of citrus mingled with the sweet aroma of baked goods. I appreciate what you did during my speech, Clara began, hoping to pry open a door to conversation. You looked like you were really thinking things over. What's on your mind? He hesitated, pouring lemonade slowly as if it could buy him more time. It's just people have short memories. We bury things and pretend they don't matter, but they do. How can we change things if we don't confront that? Clara watched him, her heart racing. Mark's voice carried a weight, a challenge she felt she was wrestling with too. I agree, she replied softly. But moving forward means finding common ground. Maybe that's the hardest part. Common ground? Mark scoffed lightly. You mean like leaving behind years of grievances? Not everyone wants to forgive and forget. She stepped closer, her voice earnest. Maybe they don't have to forget, but if they can find a way to coexist, that's powerful. Look at everyone here today. This gathering is a start, not an end. She saw a flicker of softening in his expression, but it quickly vanished. What if, after this gathering, things go back to how they were? What then? The question hung in the air, pressing heavily against both of them. Clara took a deep breath, determination flooding her. Then we keep trying. We keep reaching out, even when it's hard or uncomfortable. Change doesn't happen overnight, Mark. He met her gaze. And what if it doesn't work? What if it fails? Then we learn and adapt. We might end up stronger, just like people do when they face tough times. Their eyes held a moment longer, an understanding forming between them. It was a fragile truce, but it was something. As they poured the lemonade together, Clara sensed a shift. Maybe the cracks in their past could allow a light to shine through, illuminating still dormant hopes. As they rejoined the others, she felt emboldened. But in the back of her mind, the doubts lingered. Just then, another shout erupted from the crowd. "Look out!" Children screamed in laughter, chasing after the now-lost puppy. But as Clara turned to see the delightful chaos, her heart sank momentarily again. The puppy was headed straight for the table where half-finished conversations hung. Clara's breath caught. Would this silly distraction model the very chaos they all feared? Or would it be a chance for unity? An unexpected thrill coursed through her. This silly puppy might just be the catalyst they needed. How would they react when faced with unforeseen moments, chaos amidst newfound connections? Clara stood firm, ready to embrace whatever came next. She just wanted them to stay together. But what would happen when deeper truths demanded to be faced? When old wounds couldn't be brushed aside anymore? Would the laughter still echo then? The puppy zigzagged across the grass, a furry blur of mischief that drew squeals from the children chasing it. Clara's heart raced as she watched it dart toward the table, where old grievances rested like heavy weights. Laughter echoed, but beneath it lay an undercurrent of tension ready to resurface at any moment. "Clara, look!" a little girl yelled, pointing at the puppy. Clara's smile faltered when she noticed the older folks seated nearby, exchanging wary glances as that playful creature bound closer to their plates. Would this delightful scene bring them together, or would it expose the tension waiting just beneath the surface? "Maybe it's just what we need," Mark said, his voice low but firm beside her. She turned, surprised to hear a hint of optimism in his tone. "Even chaos has a purpose sometimes." Clara chuckled nervously, trying to match his sudden confidence. "You're right. A little chaos might be the perfect distraction." Just as the puppy leaped onto a bench, the older gentlemen seated there jumped back, their voices rising, mixing in with the laughter. Clara's stomach dropped. Old wounds could easily resurface in this unpredictable moment. She glanced at Mark. His brow was furrowed, clearly feeling the weight of it too. "Should we help?" she asked, moving closer to the action, uncertain but determined. Before Mark could answer, Clara sprinted toward the puppy, arms wide as if she could catch the inevitable chaos in a hug. "Hey, you little rascal! Come here!" she called, laughter bubbling in her own throat, trying to drown out the anxiety. The puppy turned its head, tongue lolling as it pranced closer. Clara scooped it up, heart racing, part relief, part nervous excitement. "See? Not so scary after all," she called back to the adults, trying to diffuse the tension with a smile. But not everyone was convinced. An elderly woman shook her head, her eyes narrowing. "Of course, a puppy is lovely, but it doesn't resolve anything, dear." The words hit Clara hard. It was as if the cheerful gathering had suddenly shifted into a courtroom where accusations were laid bare. "It's not about resolving every issue right now," Clara responded, tone steady. "It's about connecting again. We have to start somewhere." Mark stepped forward then, a step of support. "Yeah, what we're doing here isn't just fluff. It's an effort, and efforts matter." His voice rose a bit, but there was conviction there, a shared understanding forming. Clara's heart swelled. She could see the shift in the crowd. Some faces softened, others looked contemplative. The laughter started to rise again, a wave washing away some of the prevalent unease. The puppy squirmed in Clara's arms and she set it down again, letting it bound around the feet of the adults. It began to weave in and out, playfully nudging people. It was silly, but it was breaking barriers, urging smiles from faces that had previously looked so serious. Seconds turned into minutes, and Clara found herself surrounded by giggling children, all eager to join in the puppy's joyful antics. Mark stood beside her, a smile finally breaking the cloud of worry over his features. "See?" he nudged her playfully, "a little chaos can actually be a blessing." Clara laughed, feeling the truth of it in her bones, a gentle reminder that sometimes, happiness finds a way, even amidst uncertainty. But then, as they shared smiles and slight chuckles, a shadow passed over the gathering. It was the looming presence of the older woman, seemingly ready to confront the raw connections forming. Clara could feel the tension tightening again. "Are we really going to let a puppy save us?" she sneered, eyebrows arched, ready to challenge the doubt. Clara's breath hitched. How would they respond? Would they stay united or turn back to anger? As the laughter faded slightly, Clara realized there was still a long way to go. The path toward healing hadn't been paved with just good intentions. It required something more. And just beyond the laughter of the gathered friends, a new anxiety began to form. Would they be able to face the deeper truths waiting at the edge of this newfound unity, or would it all come crashing down? Clara took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of the moment. She scanned the faces around her. Some were still laughing, caught up in playful moments with the puppy, but the older woman's challenge hung heavy in the air, like storm clouds ready to unleash rain. Is a puppy really the answer? The woman pressed, her voice cutting through the laughter. What about the real problems? The things we've been avoiding? Clara could feel the anxiety rolling in her stomach, a mix of frustration and a sense of urgency. Why couldn't they just enjoy this small moment? She glanced at Mark again, searching for strength in his gaze. It's not about replacing our struggles with a puppy, Clara finally declared, stepping forward. But maybe it's a small step toward healing. Isn't it worth it to try? The air fell silent. Clara's heart pounded in her chest while the grown-ups exchanged glances, some skeptical, others contemplative. One of the men finally shrugged, his lips curling into a reluctant smile. Well, I guess it is kind of cute exactly. Clara chimed in, her voice breaking through. Even if it's just for today, let us set aside our grievances for a little while. We're in the same circle. We have to try to find joy together, right? The elderly woman crossed her arms, still unimpressed. Joy won't erase the hurt. It's not that simple. Of course it's not simple, Mark interjected, stepping forward to join Clara. But we can't just only focus on the hurt. We have to acknowledge the joy too. Life is too short to be weighed down, Clara nodded. We carry our burdens, yes, but we also have the capacity to lift each other up. Even for a moment. That puppy teaches us that joy can be found when we least expect it. A hesitance hung over the crowd. But slowly, a few heads began to nod, the barrier beginning to shift. In that moment, the puppy dashed back into the fray, its playful barks ringing with innocence. The jolt of energy rolled through the children, who were now purposefully sharing stories about their own pets. More laughter erupted, cutting through the undercurrent of tension just enough to crack a smile on even the most somber faces. As the puppy nuzzled into an older man's shoe, he chuckled unexpectedly. Maybe it has a point after all. His eyes twinkled with what Clara recognized as a seed of curiosity, perhaps even a willingness to engage. Clara felt a warmth spreading in her chest, a feeling that could bloom into something beautiful if nurtured. She turned to Mark, surprised to see the same surge of hope reflected in his eyes. But just as signs of connection began to sprout, a loud crash erupted as a child ran too fast, bumping into the long table. Plates rattled, a glass shattered, and everyone's laughter ceased, replaced by stunned silence. Clara turned, her heart sinking, fear creeping up her spine. Would this one moment erase all the tiny steps they had begun to take? Would it bring back the old wounds that had started to heal? She could see the older woman's lips tighten, the concerns brewing anew, ready to surface. Everything's all right. Clara tried to assert, her voice almost desperate. We can fix this. But inside, she felt a knot growing tighter as all eyes fixed on her. The puppy, oblivious to the tension, trotted over to the scattered glass, its tiny tail wagging. And Clara's heart raced again, but this time, it was fused with determination. As she made her way over, her mind whirled. Could one moment of chaos lead back to unity? Was there a way to gather the pieces, both literally and emotionally? Before she could even bend down to pick up the glass, the elderly woman stepped forward, ready to voice concerns. Clara held her breath, fearing that the fragile momentum they had built would be crushed. Something had to give, and she knew it couldn't be just about the puppy or a broken plate anymore. It was about connecting the shattered pieces of their hearts. Yet, deep down, Clara felt the looming tension that lingered above them all. Would they find a path forward, or would it all come crashing down once more? The moment felt heavy, pulsing with possibility and fear, a delicate balance on the edge of chaos. Clara's heart pounded in her chest as she watched the older woman move closer, her face etched with concern. The laughter that had just begun to permeate the air faded, replaced by a thick silence. Clara could feel the eyes of the group watching, waiting, expecting her to somehow fix this. "Is everyone okay?" Clara asked, forcing a calmness into her voice. She crouched down, picking up the shattered glass pieces, trying to ignore the way her hands trembled. The puppy sniffed curiously, playful as ever, but the mood surrounding them had shifted like a storm cloud blocking the sun. Clara Marquez's voice came softly from behind her, a gentle reminder that he was there, his support rooting her in this chaotic moment. The elderly woman cleared her throat. This moment, it's not just about spilled drinks or laughter. It's about the mess we have not only here, but in our lives. Her voice was firm, yet Clara detected a hint of sadness. How do we deal with that when chaos strikes? Clara straightened up, glass crumbs safely in her hands. She scanned the group again, feeling the weight of unanswered questions. Maybe chaos is part of life. We spill things, we break things. But what matters is how we come together afterward, how we support each other, just like right now. "You're asking for unity in the face of chaos," the woman replied, crossing her arms tighter. "But sometimes it feels like a dream." Mark stepped in, his voice filled with conviction. "It doesn't have to be. We can choose to stand together even when things fall apart." His gaze shifted to the group, and Clara could sense a spark of connection igniting again. The older man chuckled nervously, the tension breaking slightly. "Sounds like we need a stronger glue than a puppy then." Suddenly the air lightened, and Clara felt something shift. As the children began helping to gather the remains, each small gesture became a thread, weaving and binding them closer. Clara watched, her heart swelling. The laughter returned in spurts, a child finding a rubber ball that had rolled away, another attempting to mend the atmosphere with an exaggerated sound of surprise. After a few moments, Clara turned to the elderly woman once more. "See, it's not about erasing what's broken. It's about finding ways to connect despite that break. Can't we take this chance to create something stronger together?" A glimmer of vulnerability flickered in the woman's eyes, almost lost beneath layers of hesitation. "But what if we do this and it only leads to more cracks? What if we don't try at all?" Clara interjected gently, cutting through the woman's fear. "What if we miss out on something beautiful because we're scared of the mess?" Silence blanketed them again, but this time an opening seemed to stretch out before Clara. Like the laughter of the children and the playful nudges of the puppy, hope began to find its way back into their hearts. The puppy barked again, breaking the contemplation, darting to coax the children who had begun running in circles. Clara felt a wave of relief wash over her. Maybe they couldn't fix everything at once, but they could embrace this little moment of joy, chaotic or not. "All right," the elderly woman finally sighed. "Let us see where this puppy takes us, and perhaps have a few more spills along the way." The group chuckled lightly, igniting that warmth that had sparked when they first saw the puppy. Clara could feel the movement shift, faces that had been drawn tight softened, laughter flickered back to life, and resilience began to build among them. But beneath that rising energy, Clara sensed the question still hung. Would they keep nurturing this bond, or let the chaos hurtle them away again? As she watched Mark, a grin breaking across his face, Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. There was more at stake here than just a puppy's charm, and before she could gather her thoughts, a child stumbled forward, dropping a colorful, hand-painted ceramic that had been passed around for decoration. The sound of cracking clay echoed through the gathering, and once again, every eye turned toward Clara. Could this one tiny crack push them back, or would it become the catalyst for something even greater? The moment was upside down, teetering precariously, and Clara's heart raced with the possibilities. Clara held her breath as the ceramic hit the ground, shards scattering across the grass like the thoughts racing in her mind. She glanced at the child, their eyes wide with shock, mirroring the group's silent anxiety. For a moment, it felt as if the air had been sucked from their lungs. "Oh," the child whispered, their voice trembling like the leaves in the gentle breeze. Clara knelt down, heart pounding again, focusing on the scattered pieces rather than the growing tension that squeezed around them. "Hey, it's all right," she managed, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "It's just a little crack. Look at how colorful it is." Mark moved closer, crouching next to her. "See, there's beauty in every piece," he said, picking up a bright blue fragment that glistened in the sun. "Maybe we can show everyone just how this can be put together." The older woman stepped forward, her expression softening a fraction. If we embrace the breaks, perhaps we can create something new. Clara felt a flicker of hope ignite again. It was true, wasn't it? Life was full of cracks and imperfections, like that ceramic so easily shattered, yet vibrant and full of stories waiting to be told. Gathering the pieces, Clara looked at the group. Why don't we all take a piece of this and share what it means to us? It could be a reminder that we don't have to hide our imperfections. She offered each member of the group a fragment, inviting them to contribute. The elderly woman hesitated, but as Clara extended a piece toward her, she reluctantly accepted it. Well, all right then. As each person shared their thoughts, Clara's heart began to swell. The child who dropped the ceramic spoke up first, their voice wavering at first but growing stronger with each word. I painted this for my mom because she said I could make the world beautiful. Laughter bubbled up and rippled through the group, a warm tide that washed over the earlier tension. One by one, stories unfolded. The older man recounted a long-lost memory of the first time he held a ceramic cup made by his grandmother. Tears glimmered in his eyes. Life isn't just about perfection. It's about the stories we carry, he said, looking at the group. With each shared fragment, Clara felt the stitches of their community so tighter, linking them in ways she never anticipated. The puppy romped around their feet, bringing an air of carefree joy, blending with the warmth of heartfelt connection. Just when Clara thought they might have weathered the storm, a voice piped up from behind her. What if we make a mosaic out of all these pieces? We can build something beautiful together. The suggestion ignited a flurry of excitement. Clara's heart sang with possibility. They could take what was broken and transform it into something that expressed their collective journey. Absolutely. Mark agreed, and soon they were rolling up sleeves and brainstorming how they could bring the mosaic to life, voices rising above laughter and playful shouts. Clara stepped back for a moment, taking in the scene. The mix of colors on the grass, the shattered glass, the ceramic fragments, the playful, energetic puppy bouncing around was a view not just of chaos, but of potential, of a shared history being made anew. But as she watched them join together, a pulse of uncertainty gripped her. How fragile would it remain? What lay beneath the surface of this newfound joy? Before she could ponder it too long, a sudden gasp echoed through the gathering. Clara turned to see the older woman staring intently at a piece of ceramic, her hand pressed to her mouth. Oh no, what is it? Clara asked, anxiety creeping back. The woman shook her head, disbelief etched on her face. This was my mother's. I thought it was lost forever. The group fell silent, anticipation thick in the air. Clara felt a mix of excitement and fear holding its breath together. This moment could change everything. Would this forgotten piece ignite a deeper connection? Or would it unravel the delicate threads they were weaving? Clara's hands clenched at her sides as the elderly woman's voice broke through the silence, full of unexpected weight. Maybe, she paused, glancing around at the gathered faces. We just found what we were looking for all along. The tension hung in the air like an electric charge, a swirling mix of surprise and vulnerability. Clara took a cautious step closer, her heart racing. What do you mean? It felt almost surreal. Could a mere piece of ceramic hold such significance? The woman's eyes glistened with unshed tears. This was my mother's favorite. She always said that no matter how broken things appear, they can still become something beautiful. Clara felt the wave of sentiment wash over the group, each member resonating with their own hidden wounds. Maybe that's what we need, someone in the crowd echoed, their voice laced with warmth. To remember the beauty in our stories. As if a spark had ignited, Clara caught sight of the children gathering around the puppy, playful and eager, unburdened by judgments from the past. David and Lily beamed, their laughter filling the air. It reminded Clara why she had started this journey, to gather her children, others, and build a community that understood the essence of love and connection. Let us create the mosaic together. Using our broken pieces, Clara suggested, her voice steadying with determination. Let us transform everything we've faced, piece by piece. Mark stepped beside her, a shared understanding brightening his eyes. We have to forge a future from our past, the beauty of our scars. Together. In that moment, fears began to fade, replaced by a sense of collective purpose. The elderly woman's porcelain fragment became the centerpiece. Laughter erupted as the children raced to gather more shards, sparking energy in the air. Neighbors began discussing how they would each contribute to the artwork, pulling the group closer together like vines intertwined as the sun set, casting golden rays through the leaves. Clara stepped back to witness the creation unfold. Shards of color scattered across the ground. Memories, laughter, and raw emotions were beginning to weave into something remarkable. The puppy dashed between the hands of adults and children alike, playfully nudging them as if it understood the treasure being built. Clara's heart filled with joy, a warmth that blossomed in her chest as she watched people truly connect, sharing their stories, their hopes. Each person began to share their shards of experiences, stories woven together like threads in a tapestry. This purple piece represents my daughter's stubbornness and strength, one neighbor offered, laughter echoing around them. It reminds me to nurture that fire. Clara's hope surged in the atmosphere. As they worked through the night, the mosaic began taking shape, bringing to life their collective joy, pain, and determination. Clara felt tears prick her eyes, not of sadness, but of overwhelming gratitude for the community that had begun to unite. The final stroke completed the masterpiece as the golden sun dipped below the horizon. They stood together, parents, children, laughter, reminders of the moments that had nearly shattered them in the past now woven together in harmony. This was their celebration, a testament to resilience, growth, and understanding. With hearts stilled by the brilliance of their creation, Clara felt powerful connections formed in that moment, of fleeting stillness that said they could weather any storm as long as they did it together. Can you see it? She beamed, addressing everyone. This is just the beginning. Look at what we've built and how we've pulled through. Let us keep this bridge alive. Applauses erupted, and Clara turned to find not only smiles but genuine acceptance in her friends' eyes. It felt like they had uncovered a new truth about their community, a united front that surpassed misunderstandings and rumors. Mark stood by her side, pride gleaming in his eyes. Softly he murmured, "You turned a tough moment into something beautiful." She beamed back. "And you stood with me. This is how change begins." And as they all embraced, Clara whispered a prayer of gratitude, her mind full of hope. They had shattered the boundaries of prejudice and replaced them with compassion. Each whisper of doubt had slipped away, replaced by understanding. She felt secure that there was no limit to what they could achieve together moving forward. Her heart sang a final song of triumph as the community held tight, knowing that unity meant they were never truly alone. Now it's your moment. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss these incredible transformations. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button to feed the algorithm, and let us grow together. Comment below with your feelings about this ending, what touched your heart, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Support our journey and keep the inspiration alive. Let us make a difference together.